Observer, something quiet has begun moving through our sky, and it has drawn you here for a reason. You weren't meant to pass by this night untouched, because across billions of years and unimaginable distances, a silent visitor has arrived at the precise moment we learned how to watch closely enough. What are the odds that an interstellar object older than our sun itself would reach its closest embrace? With our star and suddenly erupt with the light no model could predict. At Perihelion, where heat should explain everything, Thric Atlas did the opposite. It changed, and no one yet understands why. Now it drifts onward, glowing softly, a quiet shape, slipping back toward the dark between stars, leaving only unanswered questions in its wake. Stay with me. Tonight the universe whispers again. Not loudly, not with urgency, but with a deviation so quiet that it could only be noticed by those who have learned how to wait. I've spent many nights like this watching the slow pulse of instruments, listening to the faint hum of machines, letting the sky reveal itself one number at a time. Most nights nothing breaks pattern. Motion follows prediction. Light behaves. Silence remains intact. And then rarely something drifts just far enough from expectation that the silence itself feels altered. On October the 29th, 2025, the interstellar object known as 3I Atlas reached its closest passage to our Sun. This moment, called Perihelion, should have been familiar. A gentle rise in brightness, ice responding gradually to heat. A curve already traced in equations long before the object arrived. Instead, the light surged. Not slowly, not patiently. It intensified at twice the expected rate, then faster still, as if responding to something no one had accounted for. Traveller, you didn't arrive here by chance. Some moments in the cosmos pull awareness toward them the way gravity gathers dust. This was one of those moments. 3I Atlas had crossed distances that strain the human sense of time. For billions of years it moved through interstellar darkness, far from warmth, far from stars, far from witnesses. It passed through regions shaped only by radiation and entropy, surviving eras in which suns ignited and collapsed. Through all that time, it remained quiet, stable, cold. And then in the final approach to our star, it changed. The increase in brightness was immediate and sustained. Observatories recorded the rise while astronomers watched without speaking, waiting for correction that never arrived. The models did not catch up. The numbers kept climbing. There was no dramatic explosion, no violence, only excess. Too much activity too quickly without a clear cause. Light carries memory. When it shifts, it tells a story. The spectrum of 3I Atlas bent toward blue, moving beyond the familiar colour of sunlight itself. That shift revealed carbon fragments and nitrogen compounds, markers associated with active ice turning directly into vapour. This alone would not alarm anyone. Such behaviour belongs to objects near heat. But the scale refused to settle into comfort. In the span of 2 weeks, the object released water molecules in quantities that resist intuition. Tens of octillions every second, 40 times more than only a month earlier. One scientist described it as a fire hose turned fully open, pouring matter into emptiness. Not chaos, but abundance. Not randomness, but intensity. Here the silence deepened. Physics favours continuity. Heat rises. Matter responds. Change follows gradients. But this response broke rhythm. Timing slipped. Acceleration arrived early. When space-based instruments turned their gaze closer to the sun, they found something even stranger. No dust, no familiar trail scattering light behind it. Only an elongated glow stretched thin like breath, held too long in vacuum. Listener, when absence appears where presence is expected, attention sharpens. Comets are known for dust. Dust shapes tails. Dust reflects sunlight and paints the sky with motion. But 3I Atlas offered almost none. What remained was gas alone, luminous and quiet, flowing outward without debris to follow. The shape felt incomplete, as though part of the story had been withheld. One explanation suggested a veil of carbon dioxide once cooled the surface, releasing cold gas that delayed deeper reaction. When that veil thinned, warmth reached below, exposing ice that responded all at once. This explanation fits known physics. It settles neatly into equations. But neat explanations do not always survive long contact with reality, because there is another possibility, one that resists ease. This object did not form here. Its structure shaped itself around a different star under conditions we cannot recreate. Its interior may follow principles unfamiliar to us. When the James Webb Telescope examined its light, another layer of the story emerged. Radiation from the galaxy itself had reshaped the surface over immense spans of time. High-energy particles struck again and again, altering chemical bonds, compressing matter, turning once simple ice into something harder, darker, more complex. Simulations suggest this altered layer reaches deep, forming a crust forged not by origin, but by journey. A shell shaped by silence and exposure rather than warmth and formation. This realization shifts perspective. Scientists once hoped such visitors would offer untouched records of distant systems. But what if the surface is not a record at all? What if it's a scar? A memory of transit rather than birth? If so, whatever lies beneath remains hidden, protected by time itself. I have watched data like this unfold before. Long nights, quiet rooms, the steady rhythm of cooling fans filling the space between thoughts. In moments like these, certainty dissolves. What remains is patience, attention, a willingness to sit with questions that refuse to resolve. 3's I Atlas has now passed its closest encounter. It moves away from warmth, carrying its unanswered behaviour back into darkness. In the coming months, it will become visible again, faint and distant, offering one more opportunity to listen. Perhaps solar heating stripped away part of the crust. Perhaps nothing changed at all. Either outcome carries meaning. It is all right to not understand. For now, the discovery rests here. An unexpected surge, a missing trail, a surface shaped by radiation and time. We mark the anomaly and let it remain unresolved, as the universe so often asks us to do. Somewhere beyond our reach, something ancient still moves. And for this moment, that is enough. Rest here. The story will continue when you are ready. Silence is the universe thinking. It is not empty. It is not passive. It is the slow arrangement of causes waiting to be noticed. After the first surge of light from 3i Atlas, the instruments did what they always do. They kept listening. They kept counting. They kept watching long after excitement faded and certainty failed to arrive. I remember those hours clearly. The sky does not rush. Data arrives one photon at a time, each carrying a fragment of truth so small it feels almost unfair to ask it for answers. Yet answers are exactly what we seek, even when we know they will come incomplete. As the object moved away from perihelion attention, shifted from brightness to behaviour. The question was no longer how intense the change had been, but what it meant. Because change alone is not mystery, meaning is. Spectra continued to arrive. Carbon dioxide stood out stronger than expected, persistent even as distance increased. Water vapour lingered longer than models predicted. The chemistry did not fade with warmth as neatly as it should have. This was not dramatic, it was subtle, and subtlety is often where understanding breaks. We like stories with clean edges. Heat causes change. Distance causes calm. But nature is rarely that polite, especially not for objects that have never belonged to this place. 3. Atlas carries with it a history shaped outside the shelter of our sun. In interstellar space, there is no heliosphere to soften radiation, no magnetic cradle to slow high-energy particles. For millions, perhaps billions of years, this object absorbed that exposure directly. Cosmic rays altered its surface again and again, rearranging matter, rewriting structure, quietly transforming what once formed near another star. Computer models suggest that such exposure creates a hardened outer layer, a shell not born of violence, but of persistence. Radiation breaks bonds. Time recombines them into something else. The result is not pristine ice, but a modified skin that resists change longer than expected, until it doesn't. Listener, when you have spent enough nights under open skies, you learn to respect thresholds. There are moments when nothing appears to happen, and then suddenly everything does. If that irradiated shell finally gave way near perihelion, the sudden release makes sense. Warmth reaching material long protected. Volatiles responding all at once, a delayed reaction catching up with time. This explanation fits physics. It rests on processes we understand, and yet it leaves something unresolved. Because even now, the behaviour does not settle fully into quiet. Observations from space-based instruments revealed interactions with solar wind that appeared uneven. Gas flowed asymmetrically. Structures formed in the surrounding cloud that suggested complexity rather than uniform release. Plasma responded, fields bent. Patterns emerged that required more than simple heating to explain. This is where stories often drift too far, where imagination outruns evidence. But staying grounded does not mean ignoring questions. It means letting them breathe. The object's path through our system is unusually straight. Not curved and sculpted by long familiarity with planetary gravity, but clean, efficient, untangled. It is the path of something passing through, not something shaped by belonging. Velocity measurements confirm this. The speed is sufficient not just to leave our system, but to continue wandering long after our sun fades from relevance. Age estimates stretch backward beyond comfort. Possibly older than our entire planetary neighbourhood. If true, this object existed before Earth, cooled before ocean settled, before life learned to look upward. It has carried itself intact through epochs we name only in theory. Survival at that scale is not guaranteed. Interstellar space is vast but not gentle. Collisions happen, radiation accumulates, structures weaken. Yet 3i Atlas arrives coherent, stable enough to respond dramatically rather than fragment. That alone deserves attention. Some researchers have proposed that objects like this may play roles we have not fully acknowledged. Seeds captured by young stars, cores around which planets slowly gather. Silent contributors to systems not yet born. If so, then what we see now is not merely debris but potential unrealized. A beginning that never found a home. This perspective softens the mystery rather than sharpening it. The object becomes less anomaly and more reminder. The galaxy recycles, matter travels. Nothing truly stays where it begins, and yet there remains a signal beneath the explanation. Not a broadcast, not a message, but a pattern that refuses to flatten completely into expectation. The timing, the scale, the persistence. Requests for broader access to data followed naturally. When something challenges understanding, the instinct to share grows stronger. More eyes, more perspectives. Science does not fear exposure. It relies on it, especially when certainty is absent. What matters now is patience. As 3i Atlas continues outward, its activity may fade, or it may persist longer than comfort allows. Both outcomes inform. Both teach restraint. The universe does not owe us resolution on our schedule. I have learned this slowly, sitting alone with star charts, watching signals appear and disappear, feeling the tension between curiosity and acceptance. We are small observers allowed brief glimpses into processes far older than our questions. It is all right to not understand. The signal we are receiving from 3i Atlas may not be one we decode into meaning. It may simply be a reminder that nature holds layers beyond our current reach, that some stories arrive incomplete not because they hide truth, but because truth unfolds slowly. As this object drifts farther away, it carries nothing from us with it. No imprint, no memory. Only the quiet record of having passed through our awareness for a moment. Somewhere beyond our reach, something ancient still moves, and the signal it leaves behind is not fear, but humility. Rest now. The universe will continue thinking whether we listen or not. Tonight the universe whispers again, not through sudden light or violent change, but through withdrawal. After the surge at Perihelion, after the intense focus and hurried calculations, something subtler begins to unfold. The object does not announce this phase, it simply moves away. Distance grows, signals thin, and what remains is silence, the kind that follows when nature has said all it intends to say for now. As 3i Atlas drifts outward, the sun loosens its grip. The heat that once drove activity weakens, and with it the expectation of drama. This is the moment scientists know well but rarely describe to the public. The waiting. The long nights where nothing obvious happens and yet everything matters. Instruments continue to listen, registering fewer photons, softer signatures, gentler interactions. This is not an ending, it is a transition. I've spent countless hours in this phase watching monitors glow in dark rooms, listening to the low hum of cooling systems, feeling the strange intimacy that comes when you are alone with data and uncertainty. Silence does not mean failure. It means the system is returning to a state where interpretation becomes harder and more honest. As the comet recedes, its behaviour is scrutinised more carefully than ever. Without the overwhelming brightness of perihelion, subtle patterns become visible. Gas emissions fade gradually, not abruptly. Carbon dioxide remains detectable longer than expected. Water vapour decreases, but not immediately, and still the dust tail never truly appears. That absence continues to resist simple explanation. Comets, as we know them, are storytellers of dust. Dust reflects sunlight traces, motion paints elegant arcs across the sky. Here there is mostly gas, a thin glow, a stretched form without ornament. This suggests a body shaped differently, either poor in solid grains or bound by a surface, altered beyond what we usually encounter. Radiation changes matter quietly. Over billions of years, cosmic rays do not explode surfaces. They restructure them. Bonds break and reform. Ice hardens. Grains fuse. What was once loose becomes resistant. What was once reactive becomes delayed. In this context, the deeper radiated crust proposed by simulations feels less like speculation and more like memory. A record written slowly by exposure, not impact. If that crust partially eroded near the sun, then what we observed was not a sudden awakening but a long, overdue response. Heat reached layers that had waited incomprehensibly long to be touched. The release would feel explosive to us, even if it was simply time catching up. Traveller. This is where perspective matters. We measure change in days and weeks. The universe measures in millions of years. When those scales briefly intersect, the result can feel dramatic, even when it is entirely natural. As observations continue, attention turns to what does not happen. There are no unexpected accelerations, no sudden course corrections, no signals that demand new physics. And yet the object remains quietly unusual. Its trajectory stays clean and direct. Its emissions fade without fully conforming to familiar curves. It behaves like something passing through, not something settling in. This reinforces a truth that is easy to forget. Belonging shapes behaviour. Objects formed here carry the imprint of this system. They curve, fragment, respond predictably. Objects formed elsewhere do not owe us that familiarity. They arrive carrying histories shaped under different stars, different radiation fields, different gravitational neighbourhoods. Silence allows that idea to settle. There is also a human silence that follows initial excitement. The pause after headlines fade, the moment when curiosity becomes internal rather than performative. This is when understanding deepens, if it's going to at all. Scientists return to raw data. They reprocess. They compare before and after. They look for consistency rather than surprise. Some will conclude that 3i Atlas fits within an expanded but still natural framework. An interstellar comet, altered by time and radiation, behaving strangely only because our expectations were too narrow. That conclusion would not diminish its importance. It would expand our sense of what nature produces. Others will remain cautious, noting that our sample size is still painfully small. 3 interstellar objects do not define a category. They hint at one. And hints are dangerous when mistaken for answers. The silence surrounding this object now is part of that lesson. It prevents premature closure. It resists narrative satisfaction. It forces humility. It's all right to not understand. As weeks pass, the sun becomes just another distant light behind the object. The heliosphere thins. Galactic radiation resumes its full presence. 3i Atlas returns to the environment that shaped it for most of its existence. Interstellar space does not mark departures, it absorbs them. Somewhere far from our instruments, the object continues on a path that will never loop back. It carries no memory of us, no imprint of observation. The data we hold is all we will ever have, and that is enough. I find comfort in this. There is peace in knowing that the universe does not revolve around our need for explanation, that it allows us glimpses without obligation, that it speaks then falls silent and expects us to sit with that silence rather than fill it with certainty. Late at night, when observatories quiet down and the sky regains its indifference, I sometimes think about how many such objects pass unseen. How many ancient travellers cross the darkness without flaring, without detection, without ever being named. The cosmos is generous with mystery. We only notice the few that brush close enough to matter. Thritasei as Atlas is already fading from relevance in practical terms. Soon it will be too dim to track easily. Eventually it will blend into background noise, not gone, simply beyond reach. This happens to everything including questions, and yet something remains. A shift in perspective. A reminder that our system is not closed, that matter moves between stars, that the galaxy is not a collection of isolated islands, but a slow, ongoing exchange. Worlds seed worlds. Radiation reshapes travellers. Time erases borders we imagine as permanent. Silence is the universe thinking. Not withholding, not hiding, simply continuing. Rest into that understanding. The mystery does not demand resolution to be meaningful. Silence has a way of clearing the room. After the data slows and the signals thin, something else arrives not from the sky but from within, the way we look at it. This is the phase where realization begins to form, not as an answer but as a shift in posture. We stop leaning forward. We stop trying to catch the universe in a mistake. We start listening for what it has been telling us all along. For a long time, the question around 3i Atlas was framed as behaviour. Why did it brighten so sharply? Why was the dust missing? Why did the chemistry linger longer than expected? Those questions were necessary. They guided instruments and models. They justified attention. But gradually another question presses in quietly. Not what is it doing, but what is it showing us? Because sometimes the value of an observation is not in the anomaly itself, but in what that anomaly reveals about our assumptions. Interstellar space has never been empty. We say it is vast and sparse because it is compared to planets and stars, but it is filled with motion, with fragments, with leftovers from systems long gone, with objects shaped not by belonging but by endurance. 3i. Atlas reminds us of this not by announcing it, but by behaving exactly as something shaped by endurance would. Radiation alters surfaces, time hardens shells, reactions are delayed until thresholds are crossed. None of this requires intention. None of it requires design. It only requires patience, scale, and exposure. The universe is very good at those, and yet the realization does not dismiss wonder. It redirects it. Listener, when you study enough anomalies, you begin to notice a pattern not in the data, but in yourself. At first, every deviation feels like a doorway. Then over time you learn that most doorways lead not outward, but inward toward a clearer understanding of how narrow your expectations once were. This object did not arrive to challenge physics, it arrived to stretch it, to remind us that our models are local, tuned to what we grew up observing. Comets born near our sun has taught us how comets behave near our sun. That knowledge does not automatically export across the galaxy. 3i Atlas formed around a different star under different radiation, with different chemistry available at the moment of its assembly. Its journey then erased some of that origin while preserving other parts. What remains is not a postcard from another system but a composite. A traveller shaped as much by where it has been as by where it began. That realization matters more than any single explanation, because it means that future interstellar objects will not simply fill in gaps. They will complicate the picture. Each one will arrive carrying its own version of time, its own scars, its own delays, and each will challenge the quiet assumption that nature should behave consistently across environments we barely understand. There is humility in this, and relief. The impulse to assign extraordinary meaning to unexplained behaviour often comes from discomfort with uncertainty, but uncertainty is not failure. It is the correct emotional response to scale. When the universe operates on timelines that dwarf memory clarity should be rare. As researchers re-examine the full arc of observations, something subtle emerges. The object's story is coherent even if it is unfamiliar. Nothing contradicts conservation. Nothing violates known forces. The anomalies align with processes we understand imperfectly, not impossibly. This does not make the object less fascinating. It makes it more honest. Because the realization is not that there is nothing left to discover. It is that discovery often comes as revision rather than revelation. We revise what we thought was typical. We revise what we assumed was universal. We revise our sense of scale. I think back to nights when the sky felt static, when stars seemed fixed and eternal. That illusion fades the longer you observe. Everything moves. Everything changes. Some changes are slow enough to be mistaken for permanence. Thruson Atlas did not break rules. It exposed how few of them we have tested beyond our neighbourhood. There is also a quieter realization, one that arrives without equations. The realization that our presence in this story is brief. We observe a moment in a journey that spans billions of years. The object does not care that we named it, that we watched it, that we argued over it. Our interest is local. Its existence is not, and yet that does not make our attention meaningless. Because meaning is not reciprocal. The universe does not need to notice us for us to learn from it. As this object continues outward, it becomes one more data point in a growing realization that the galaxy is not a static archive, but a dynamic exchange. Material migrates. Systems influence each other indirectly. Radiation carries memory farther than gravity ever could. Somewhere beyond our reach, something ancient still moves. Not toward us, not away from us, simply onward. The realization settles best when we stop asking what it means for us and start accepting what it means about reality. That the cosmos is older, rougher, quieter, and more patient than our stories suggest. That our role is not to decode everything, but to witness carefully and step back when the moment calls for it. It's all right, and to not understand. There is peace in that sentence, especially at this hour when the world grows still and the sky resumes its indifferent glow. The questions raised by 3i Atlas do not demand resolution tonight, or ever. They have already done their work by loosening certainty. As the object fades into darkness, it leaves behind not answers, but a widened frame. A reminder that nature does not repeat itself for our convenience, that variety is the rule, that endurance is as meaningful as origin. Rest with that realization. The universe does not rush its lessons, and neither should we. Somewhere beyond our reach, something ancient still moves, and it does so without hesitation or farewell. This is how the passage of 3i Atlas truly ends, not with a revelation, not with a final surge of light, but with distance doing what it has always done best. It thins attention, it quiets signals. It reminds us that departure is the most common state of all things. The object is already fading now, not suddenly, not dramatically, but steadily. Each night it gives a little less, a weaker trace of gas, a dimmer signature against the background of stars. Instruments still listen, but they no longer lean forward. The urgency that once surrounded every data point softens into routine. This is not disappointment, it is completion. I have learned to respect this moment. After years of watching the sky, you realize that the most honest phase of any observation comes at the end when nothing more is demanded, when the universe is allowed to leave exactly as it arrived without explanation. As 3i Atlas moves outward, the sun becomes less influential. Heat no longer dominates its behaviour. Solar wind loosens its hold. The object resumes the conditions that shaped most of its existence. Cold, radiation, silence. These are not hostile states. They are simply the default. Listener, there is something quietly profound in recognizing that what we witnessed was never meant to stay accessible. The encounter was temporary by design, not by intention, but by scale. The universe offers moments, not possessions. What remains behind is not the object itself, but a change in perspective. A subtle recalibration of how we think about the space between stars, For a long time, that space was treated as emptiness, a gap between meaningful places. But objects like this reveal it as a corridor, a medium of exchange, a long memory where matter drifts and transforms. 3i Atlas did not bring us a message. It brought us context. It showed us that material formed around other stars can survive long enough to pass through entirely different systems, that radiation can reshape surfaces without destroying structure, that time can delay reactions until the conditions are right. None of these ideas are new, but seeing them embodied in a single traveller makes them harder to ignore. As data collection winds down, discussions shift tone. Papers move from speculation towards synthesis. The language becomes careful, measured. No one rushes to claim finality. That restraint is not caution alone. It is respect for scale. Because the truth is simple and difficult at the same time. We observed a fragment of a journey that began billions of years ago and will continue billions of years more. Our role was never central, it was observational, and that is enough. Traveller, when you accept that you are not the destination of every story, curiosity changes character. It becomes quieter, less demanding, more open. You stop asking what something means for you and start appreciating what it reveals about reality itself. The object's trajectory carries it now into regions where even our most patient instruments cannot follow. It will pass other stars at great distance. It will absorb radiation from events we will never detect. It may pass close to systems not yet formed, or it may wander alone until the galaxy itself reshapes around it. We will never know. And there is peace in that. The universe does not archive its movements for us. It does not leave footnotes. It moves continuously, indifferent to witness. When we are lucky, our technology intersects briefly with that motion. When we are wise, we do not mistake that intersection for ownership. There is a tendency, especially when something unusual occurs, to search for final meaning, to want closure, to want the story to resolve cleanly. But the cosmos does not resolve itself into conclusions. It offers continuity instead. As 3i Atlas departs, it joins the countless other bodies moving unseen through the dark. Some will pass close to stars and change. Some will never approach warmth again. Some will fracture. Some will persist. None will announce themselves. That is not tragedy. It is scale asserting itself. I think often about how brief our windows truly are. A few decades of observation. A handful of tools capable of reaching beyond atmosphere. A species still learning how to listen without projecting expectation. And yet within that brief window, we managed to notice something ancient, something shaped, far from home, something that did not belong to us and did not need to. That alone is remarkable. Tonight the universe whispers again, not to ask for interpretation, but to invite acceptance, to remind us that not every encounter demands resolution. Some are complete simply because they occurred. It's all right to not understand. There is wisdom in letting that sentence settle, in allowing unanswered questions to remain unanswered without anxiety, in trusting that knowledge grows not only by solving mysteries, but by learning which mysteries do not require immediate solutions. The departure of 3i Atlas leaves no emptiness behind. The sky is not diminished by its absence. If anything, it feels larger now, more dynamic, less static than it did before. We look up and realize that motion is constant, that arrivals and departures overlap endlessly, that what we call background is alive with passage, and so the night returns to its familiar stillness. Stars hold their positions, instruments power down, minds drift. The object continues on its way, indifferent, enduring, unburdened by our questions. The universe does not pause for reflection, but it allows it. Rest now knowing that you witnessed a moment that did not need to change everything to matter. Knowing that some travellers pass through, not to be understood, but to remind us how vast the road truly is. Traveller, as this quiet passage draws to a close, the sky remains open and unfinished. Somewhere beyond our sight, 3i Atlas continues on its long path, carrying with it the memory of light heat and questions we have only begun to shape. For a brief moment we were allowed to watch, to listen, to stand still while something ancient passed through our awareness. There is humility in that act of watching. We are small beneath these distances, yet not absent. Our instruments, our patience, our curiosity become part of the universe's unfolding, even if only as witnesses. Every measurement, every careful pause is a way of saying we are paying attention. The mystery does not end here. It never does. The universe keeps moving, keeps whispering long after the last data point fades into silence. And perhaps that is the quiet lesson. Not everything arrives to be solved. Some things arrive to widen us, to soften certainty, to remind us how vast time truly is. If this story found you tonight, let it rest gently with you. The stars will continue their work. The questions will wait. Rest well, traveller. The universe will keep watch.